It may be really hard to see if there's any effects of climate change here on Molokai, but these are the times to really ask our kupuna, like how was Molokai back then? How was it in the day? And it makes me remember when I used to talk to my grandma, and she was an avid limu gatherer, and she used to always pick limu in front of Pano Place. But I remember recently, before she had passed, I always asked her why she doesn't go anymore, and she said, "'Cause no more. The water warmer. No more the limu anymore." So that is one of the reasons, and that's an example of how climate change is affecting our island.
Aloha everybody, we're working on the Molokai Climate Change and Sea Level Rise Adaptation and Resiliency Plan. I know that's a long name. We're calling it Molokai CCSLAR for short. We're in the first of 5 phases, and this first main phase is really to collect everybody's input and feedback in our community so that we can have our Molokai residents and all of our community shape this plan. We're looking for your feedback on the surveys that we have up on our link tree, and we want you to fill them out and rate your priority areas, and that's where you're gonna share your manaʻo.
There are a total of 13 maps that we have, one being the key map and 12 maps panning over our island. The purple dots indicate individual home wastewater disposal systems, and there are 3 different scenario colors also overlaid on our map. But the first thing I want you to look at is this little black line. So this little black line indicates our average Sustʻa line at 3.2 feet of sea level rise. If we're looking at map number 3, Kanakai map, it'll cover all the way almost to the road, the main highway by Kalama'ula. It'll overlay over Coconut Grove. It'll actually go across the street a little by Kulana'o Iwi, and it'll also overlay over our wastewater disposal system in Kaunakakai town. And you can also see what that 3.2 line indicates and how much land it covers. And it also, if you look at our wharf, that little black line actually does cover our wharf, meaning that our wharf may be flooded as well. Our fish ponds are being labeled, our schools are being labeled, our first responders like the police station, our fire station, and our hospital is labeled. And we also have our grocery stores and our state building also labeled. So take a look at our key and take a look at in town to indicate the different businesses and roadways that will affect you and your ohana. To talk about the 3 different scenarios that are overlaid on our map, the first scenario is the blue colored overlay, and that indicates 4 feet. The green is at 6 feet, and the yellow is at a total of 10.9 feet. These different scenarios indicate different probabilities of when our sea level rise depths, the different depths may happen. Scientists can't tell you an exact time or an exact depth the sea level rise may come, but they can give you different scenarios and different probabilities. The different scenarios are determined by the amount of emissions that are being put back into our atmosphere. So if we do not cut back on the fossil fuels, or if we do not change the amount of emissions that we are burning and we continue to increase that, we may be looking at that 10.9 feet of sea level rise sooner rather than later.
All of these scenarios are modeled based on a bathtub model, which means on the most malia day, this is what we could expect. When it's super, super calm and there's no surge from any storms or any big surf, this is what we could anticipate. So that means that this doesn't include what we might see when we have a high salt swell or surges from a distant tsunami. This is just the baseline of what we could anticipate. All of these numbers are based on a relative difference between the year 2000 to 2100. So that means what we're seeing now as that thick black line as our current coastline is from the year 2000, and the inundation or how far those overlays go is what we could expect by the year 2100.
We want to hear from you about what are your priority infrastructures or buildings that we should protect. If you can please look at the maps, it will show you the different areas that is going to be affected by flooding. For example, Friendly Market or Misaki's. Where are we going to get our groceries? Or even the police station. How is that going to affect our Ohana's day-to-day living? We want you to rank your top 5 priority areas, starting from 1 being the highest to 5 being the least priority but still a priority. After you're done putting down your top priority areas, we also want to hear your opinions on what should we do about it. Should we move the buildings to higher ground? Should we build seawalls? We just want to hear what are your opinions for solutions so that we can solve this problem together.
If you look at the map, you'll see red lines. These red lines indicate flooded highways at the 3.2 feet sea level rise. Looking at these lines, what lines would affect you and your ohana? I am from Manaʻo, so in order to go to town in Kaunakakai where I do most of my shopping, I wouldn't be able to due to Kamalo being flooded, Kavela 1, 2, and 3, and Rice Patch being flooded. So what roads would affect you and your ohana? After looking at these roads that will affect you and your ohana, what do you suggest or what do you recommend that we can do to protect or to rebuild or relocate these roadways? Are we moving it higher? Are we elevating it? Are we building a drivable pontoon? What do you think? What do you think that you and your ohana would benefit the most? When looking at these highways, please indicate your 5 top priority and please indicate specific areas. For example, please, if you are indicating Rice Patch area, please indicate Rice Patch and not put Kamehameha Highway. We are trying to look at specific areas and specific roadway sections for this project. 1 being your highest priority roadway.
So as part of this plan, we're also asking that you tell us about the cultural and natural resource areas that you'd either like to protect, rebuild, or relocate. These might include lo'i that can be inundated with salt water, some punawai, fish ponds, heiau, burial sites, any cultural and natural resource area that you're concerned about. So for example, certain limu beds, maybe your suggestion for Loko'ia is to build the walls higher or to have protections in place for burial grounds. So please rank your priority areas from 1 to 5, 1 being the highest area.
Aloha everybody. Now that you've heard about the climate change plan for Molokai and how you can fill out your survey, I want to speak a little bit to the importance of our community filling out the survey. So during phase 1, we're asking you to identify priority areas on Molokai that we want to address. So these are the areas that we're going to be looking at and learning about on how to address them. And whether or not our top 10 or top 5 priority areas are super significant to you, which I'm sure they will be, this will also set us up for the future, for future planning, because we'll be able to already have a list of the areas that our island holds dear and that we want to make sure we address. And so this part of the survey collection and the survey taking will help set us up for what our community wants and how we want to address it. So the reason why we want to take this survey is because by having our community voice our priority areas, we'll know which ones to address first. The way that we've been addressing climate change in other islands is not going to be the same way that we address it on Molokai. And who knows the Molokai community better than us, right? The community ourselves, the people that live here, the people that will be affected. And so we want to hear from you on how we would like to plan ahead for our future, the future that our children are going to inherit from us, and how will we sustain ourselves, how we want to manage our resources, and also deal with the climate rising and everything like that. And this is just one of the many plans that are being facilitated by Sustainable Molokai that have come out of our community's rich history in voicing that we want a seat at the table to drive how our future develops. And so a couple other opportunities for community-led planning are also with the Molokai CRAP, our island-wide energy planning. And we also have a survey out collecting important community input that'll help us advocate and find funding for the future that we want to see. And so you can take all of our surveys at the sustainablemolokai.org website, and they will also be posted on our social media.